Hello! I got another tablet. I'm very sorry. Huion reached out this time and wanted to send me the Huion Kamvas Pro 19 and I couldn't resist, I'm not gonna lie. This thing is 19 inches, it is 4K, it's beautiful. So in the box there's the 19-inch 4K display, there's a color calibration report, which is kind of neat. It shows that this monitor is properly color calibrated for accurate color presentation. There's a 2 and 3 cable for HDMI connection, and there's 2 USB-C cables for if your computer supports USB input. So one goes into the computer and the other into the power supply. There's also a power supply and a plug adapter for whatever country you're ordering for. There's a pen box with 2 pens. 2 pens! There's one thinner one that has 2 shortcut keys on it and the one regular thicker one that has 3! They both have erasers and they have 2 sets of nibs, one of which is plastic, one of which is felt, which is a really nice touch. And there's 16,000 levels of pressure sensitivity with these 2 pens. There's also a drawing glove and a cleaning cloth and a key dial mini, which is a fun addition. It's a shortcut remote, so this tablet hasn't got shortcut keys on the monitor itself, so you get this little shortcut remote instead, which is a nice addition. The back feels metal, and it's pretty thin and not too heavy. It has mounting holes on the back, so if you wanted to mount this to a VESA compatible mount, you can, as well as 2 little legs to stand it up. On the top right, there's an on-off button, as well as a switch for touch capabilities. So this tablet also has touch input. And then on the right side, there's 2 USB connect points, which will go to your PC and to power. And there's an audio jack, which is interesting. Some things I really appreciated from the get-go. 1, there was hardly any plastic in the packaging. Good job. And 2, despite this being a 19-inch display, it pretty much has the same physical footprint as the previous tablet I reviewed. So I thought it might be too big for my desk, but it turns out to just take up the exact same amount of space. It's just because the bezel is really small on this one. So I'm really quite happy with that. I've scored a few more inches of workspace, and I haven't taken up more desk space, so huzzah! The cables are a little different on this one. Because it's 4K, it needs extra power. It has a 3 and 2 cable instead of a 3 and 1. This creates a little bit more desk mess, but I've used a cable tidy here to make it a little bit nicer. At first I thought the cable that reaches the plug wasn't going to be long enough, but luckily it was. So when you're setting it up and you've got it all plugged in and you've uninstalled all your previous tablet drivers, ensure you turn it on with the top right button. Mine didn't automatically turn on, so just a note there, just in case. And due to the audio jack on the tablet, you may need to change your sound output settings back to what you use regularly, as my Windows automatically switched my sound to the tablet. Due to the matte anti-glare surface on this tablet, the screen can look a little bit soft despite it being 4K. Since 4K is a lot of pixels, usually it sharpens everything, but the surface on this softens it. It's not a deal breaker for me, but I've heard some people have really disliked this. However, when it comes to grain, I find this surface really nice. I hardly notice the grain at all on this compared to the previous tablet. Huion advertises this as anti-sparkle. So the driver, as always, was nice and easy to install from their website. I had a hiccup at first where it didn't detect the display, but this was fixed after turning the tablet off and on again, a classic. The UI confused me a tiny bit. These top buttons at the top, press key and working area, are 2 clickable menus. Same with on the digital pen interface, so just to point that out. If you're using more monitors than just this one, you may need to change your work area to the tablet just by clicking the tablet itself in the driver, as mine defaulted to my main monitor, so my top monitor. The shortcut keys on the pen are very customizable. You can kind of change them to anything that you want. The larger of the 2 pens has a 3rd button, which defaults to a quick menu, where you can add up to 6 more shortcuts, which is really handy if you want more quick shortcuts on the pen. However, I do find this really easy to click by mistake. I do so less now, but it took a bit of getting used to. When drawing, the pen itself feels really lovely and responds really well. It has those 16,000 levels of pressure sensitivity, so it's going to perform pretty nice. I mentioned in the previous review, but I'm not huge on the feeling of matte surfaces on my tablets. I know it's kind of the norm to go with this, as it's a more sort of paper-like tactile feeling, but my brain just thinks that the screen is scratchy. So it's something I'll get used to. Also, as quickly mentioned earlier, this tablet is a touchscreen, which is amazing. So the switch on the top right of the tablet toggles it on and off, just in case you don't want it on. And it works really well. It's quite smooth and not really that clunky. It's not going to be as seamless as we've come to expect from iPads, but it's pretty good for a tablet like this. I've heard from others that this doesn't work very well on Mac OS. Hopefully this is something they patch later. The touch controls won't work perfectly on every program. I think most illustration programs it will work well, such as Photoshop and Clip Studio Paint. But on TV Paint, for example, touch inputs just behave like a regular cursor, although zooming seems to work for some reason. Also, finally, I'd like to bring up, I think I can attest to the longevity of Huion, at least as a monitor. Unfortunately, I haven't used the tablet functions in a long time, but my main monitor that I use for my PC is the Huion I received way back in 2017. And it still functions really well as a monitor. It hasn't had any hiccups or anything. When I was having those sort of screen tearing issues with my previous tablet, which I mentioned in my last review, the Huion didn't budge, and if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be able to see anything on my PC at all. So it's come a long way with me, and I'm proud of it. I'm proud of how far it's come. Again though, I haven't used it as a tablet at all in that time, so I can't comment on that side of it, but as a monitor, it's held up for 8 years. Oh my god, that's crazy. 8 years ago. Looking at my review of it back then, you know, it's amazing to see how far Huion has come. It was very dated back then, you know, the pen needed charging, I think, or there was batteries in the pen, and there was no tilt support yet, but now they're making absolutely banger tablets, so nice one, Huion. Thank you very much for sending me this one. I hope to use it for a nice long time. I'll keep you guys updated in the comments as always. And thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.